old cow and just an old chicken. He said, then hitch them up. You use what you got. You don't sit around and say, well, I don't have this, and I don't have that, I don't have this, I don't have that. Because what does that accomplish, Lance? Nothing. Mama asked me years ago. She said, boy, she said, how can we start a church? We ain't got this, we ain't got that, we ain't got this, we ain't got that. I said, Mama, if we waited until we had what we need, we would never start. Because you're never going to have what you need. Lance, you just got to do it. You've got to do it. So, what happens is, if there is a limited number of demonic beings that is going to be maneuvering, what happens is that they recruit help. He says that if Satan will masquerade as an angel of light, then is it any surprise that his workers will masquerade as workers of righteousness? So the thing is that now we've got a group of beings that represent and are empowering other people. That's why the music industry is so powerful. Why? Why is the music industry so powerful? Who is the prince of music? Lucifer. Why are musicians so powerful, so influential? Why are all of them? I was reading the list of people who have actually overdosed and committed suicide and stuff like that as far as rappers. And it was amazing the number of people that you look at and go, how is it that you had everything, but yet you still killed yourself? And we've talked about that because the deal you made to get that person, what did you have to give up? Well, the other side of it is we talk about what other people have given up, but yet we don't want to talk about what we have given up, what we have walked away from. The thing is that we're going back now in Joel, because everybody go to Joel chapter 1 and we'll start this, because we're going to understand the context of this, why God told them. Now, God gave them an answer. God told them how to fix their problem. Told them. David, if God tells you how to fix something, or if somebody walks up to you and tells you how to fix this car, or, first thing is you look at them. So if Brad told you something, how to do something, put a quarter panel on, you'd probably look at him and kind of go, yeah. But if Alan said something or if Moby said something, you'd probably give him some version of merit, right? Mm-hmm. Kevin told you that? You would try to find the logic behind what he said, but in other words, you would dismiss idiots.
Yeah, it would be like for 20%.
When God gives you an answer of solving your problems and solving your troubles, and yet, here recently, I was in a situation where I was like, God, I don't understand. Why do you open a door, shut it? Open a door, shut it. Open a door, shut it. I would have an opportunity come up, and all of a sudden it would get shut down. And I couldn't understand it. Why is God not consistently blessing me? And this is the whole part of everything that we started. Why is God not consistently blessing you? We've dismissed the whole prosperity lie. We've dismissed and all that crap. But the problem is that, tell me the one thing that God cannot bless. Disobedience. Disobedience. Sin is a byproduct of that. So, in Joel, and I'm reading from a basic English, and that way we kind of get it before we understand it. The word of the Lord, which came to Joel, the son of Pethuel. So in other words, the people had cried out. Now you've got to remember something. The difference between a prophet and a priest. The prophet pays no attention. What, David?
What book?
You had your hand raised.
I know, what book?
Joel.
I thought you said
Joel.
Joel. Like Billy Joel.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Okay. Not Joel. There's no Joel in the Bible. There's a John. There's no Joel.
I thought you just said Joel.
Joel. So, I'm sorry. Joel.
All right.
There you go.
Like Noel, but a Joel. Alright, so a prophet hears from God and delivers it to the people. A priest hears from the people and delivers it to God. There is the difference. So, if the word of the Lord came to Joel, what do you not see that maybe that the people had been crying out to God for help and an answer to the situation? So it sounds like the people had Billy an idea of what to do. They knew, hey, let's cry out to God. God heard. God gave him an answer. And he said, give ear to this. In other words, listen to me. And you notice the first people that he spoke to, he says, you old men. Think about this thing. Why? Because we are the heads, for lack of a better word. We're supposed to be the role models. But the problem is, apparently the old men were not doing their job. They were somewhere else. The old men were busy living their life. They were busy doing their thing. They were not busy doing what God called them to do. So the first people that God spoke to is he corrected the old men, the role models. In other words, how can you get your kids to not smoke if you smoke? Mama used to tell Daddy. She said, Daddy, she said, Dewey, if you want your your kids to go to church, be in church. So, he says, you old men, and take note. In other words, to write this down. This is important. Listen to what I say. And take note, you people of the land. Old men and then the people. Has this ever been in your days or in the days of your fathers? So in other words, have you ever seen this? Have you ever seen it this bad? That sounds like something that I'm hearing now. So many people say, man, have you ever seen it as bad as it is right now? Have you ever seen the state of the world as it is right now? Huh? Imagine that. Give the story of it to your children and let them give it to their children and to another generation. So in other words, this situation is to prepare you. You got to do your job, but you've also got to turn around and tell this story to your children. Raise your children up so that they will tell this story and so that they will tell this story. In other words, this is supposed to be a family tradition. This is something that we don't go to the public schools. We don't go to all these other things. We as a family have to start setting these precedents. It says, what the worm did not make a meal of has been taken by the locust. And what the locust did not take has been food for the plantworm. And what the plantworm did not take has been food for the field fly. In other words, nothing was left. There was nothing left. Everything had been destroyed. Everything had been eaten up. All your provision has been taken away. Does that mirror anything that's going on right now? The thing is, and I've said this, and this is a quote that I love, a government that will feed you will be the government that will starve you. When you become dependent upon the government, the thing is that you no longer will vote with your mind. You will vote with your stomach. Revelation laid that out clearly. You're going to be hungry. The government has shut the food off. All of the stores have closed. All of the mom and pops is down. The thing is that, understand, this thing is laid out. The mark is already clear to be seen. Because the thing is that you cannot eat or buy without somebody saying, how many people right now are dependent upon this? And the thing is, you do not think that this entity that is behind this, that is using, is much like Amber and I were talking, I think Bailey was in there, we were talking about how the government let people file for unemployment, get all this money. The reason why they let them, there's two reasons. Number one, they hid the stuff that they wanted done within all this legislation. And number two, they enslaved you with this. Who wouldn't vote for a government that would give you money? Think about this thing. They don't create slaves without a purpose. All right. I love this next part. He says, come out of your sleep. He says, wake up, you who are overcome with wine, and give yourself to weeping. In other words, it's time to wake your butt up and look around you because you're in trouble. Give cries of sorrow, all you drinkers of wine, because of the sweet wine it has been cut off from your mouths. For a nation has come up over my land, strong and without number. His teeth are the teeth of a lion, and he has the back teeth of a great lion. By him my wine is made waste, and my fig tree broken. He has taken all of its fruits and sent it down to the earth, and its branches are made white. Make sounds of grief like a virgin dressed in haircloth for her husband of early years. The meal offering and the drink offering have been cut off from the house of the Lord. The priest and Lord's servants are sorrowing. The fields are wasted. The land has become dry. For the grain is wasted. The new wine is kept back, and the oil is poor. The farmers are shamed. The workers in the vineyards and the vine gardens give cry of grief. For the wheat and the barley and the produce of the fields have come to destruction. The vine has become dry, and the fig tree is feeble. The pomegranate and the palm tree and the apple tree, even all the trees of the fields are dry, because joy has gone from the sons of men. Put haircloth around you. All right. I'm going to change versions now. This is where God gives them the answer. Yeah. Gird yourselves and lament, ye priests. Howl, ye ministers of the altar. Come lie all night in sackcloth, you ministers of my God. For the meat offering and the drink offering is withholden from the house of your God. Sanctify ye a fast. Call a solemn assembly. Gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land into the house of the Lord your God, and cry unto the Lord. This is how God answered, and this is how God answers the situation of the day. Now, the thing is that if we go back, we find that those who make their living are even crying out unto God. In other words, the priests, they're sitting there. So they're going out there, and it's even God who is having to tell the priests, those who are in full-time ministry, those who are ministering, supposed to be ministering, he says, prepare yourself, get yourself ready, because you've not done your job. So the first step, it says, sanctify ye a fast. In other words, we're going to talk about sanctify later. But sanctify ye a fast. In other words, it's time to set aside your personal desires. The things you want to go do. The things you want to be busy at. The things that you think is more important than putting your heart and effort into this. But if you notice it, he said it in a specific order. Call a solemn assembly. But didn't just tell them to call a solemn assembly out wherever we wanted to be. Where did he say to call your solemn assembly at? At your house? Where did he say? In the house of the Lord. That's why church is so very important. He says, forsake not the assembling together, and even more so as you see the day coming. Think about that right there, Billy. He says, forsake not the assembling together. and even more so as you see the day coming. So in other words, if you see trouble looming, have you ever looked at something, Billy, and you kind of got this feeling that, man, something's getting ready to go bad here?
Yeah.
Does anybody look at society right now and think, we got some